audience here in Envoc Lab Live. I know that Dr. Alcati, who has collaborated with me as well to put this on, wants to say a few words, so I'm going to let him begin the introduction. I want to say first, thank you all for being here. Thank you all for coming virtually. Thank you for coming in person. You're in for a treat. This is a real delight. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Alcati.
Thank you so much. And I just wanted to tell everyone thank you for being here. And just want to talk a little bit about our relationship with Calvin and Envoc. Just wanted to say a few things about what we have been through all these years. Calvin has been a wonderful addition to this program. He helped us out a lot. Him and all the Envocians that we have that are part of this department. As a matter of fact, instead of our students waiting to get to the real world, we brought the real world to our classes with their great involvement. I mean, I can't thank enough Calvin for allowing all of his Envocians to be part of this great program, such as VDOC, Overmeyer, Joyner, I mean, all of you guys, Aaron Harris, Justin Weber, all of you guys, Weston, I can't think of all of you now. I'm so sorry to forget. But like I said, I can't thank you enough for being part of this program and also for sponsoring this wonderful Envoc lab that we have. That is, our majors love it, by the way, and some of them think of it as their residence. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you, Calvin. Thank you for being a very good friend and a supporter for this program. And thank all the Envocians. Back to you, Bonnie. Thank you.
All right, so once again, this is our last installment in our Distinguished Lecturer series for the year, for the school year. We'll start back in the fall, but I thought that there would be no better way to end our series than to actually hold it. We've held all of them in the Envoc Lab, but to actually have Calvin, as Dr. Alcati said, who is the founder and CEO of Envoc, the reason that this space is here, have him come and talk to you guys directly. And I know that you'll give him a warm welcome. Like GDOC said, they live here. This is their home away from home. And we've had a lot of great things coming out of that. So we really appreciate that. Request for a fridge coming from, actually from Calvin is wondering where the fridge is. It wasn't the students, but they're giving it the thumbs up. There you go. I'm sorry. Can you record this? Okay. I got my tech help out here recording for me. Okay, so without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce Calvin. Calvin Fabre is the founder and president of Envoc. It's a 25-person radically creative software development and hosting company in Baton Rouge and in Hammond, 2 locations. He also co-founded LA Wallet, which I think most of us at this point have and enjoy, which is the first legal digital driver's license app in the whole United States. So Calvin graduated from Southeastern. He's an alumni in computer science, and he did some graduate work studying world religions, philosophy, apologetics at Southern Evangelical Seminary in North Carolina. He enjoys math problems, word problems, moral dilemmas, and is currently 90 days clean of political social media. Yeah, how about that? His public speaking gigs include Louisiana schools, universities, and church youth groups, where he speaks on technology, digital identity, company culture, and theology. Envoc has made the best places to work in Baton Rouge list for 7 years in a row. Calvin has no exit strategy from his current position in technology because, after all, he says, why would he quit doing what he loves? So without further ado, I'm going to present to you Mr. Calvin Fabre.
Wow. Well, thank you, Dr. Alcati and Dr. Ashe, for all those kind words. Bonnie and I were in the same classes together. So we had a ball here at Southeastern. So it's really great to be back in this environment, in this learning environment, but also in this little holodeck of the Envoc Innovation Lab. So there's any Trekkies out there. So as I was preparing this talk, and I will answer a lot of questions at the end, we're gonna have some time to do that. I started considering what's the audience here? And so I was thinking about how I got my start. This is my Atari 800. This is a 8-bit computer with 48K of RAM. Yeah, we got some Atari 800 guys out there. And since this is a technical distinguished lecturer series, there will be some code examples. This is Atari Basic, 3 lines of code for presenting the squares. You got your source code there, your compiler, debugger, UI, continuous integration. Everything's there, everything. So then I started thinking about when Bonnie and I were here, staying up late doing our 411 classes. And I started thinking about the kind of questions that I had when I was sitting where you are, when I was at the point of my educational career where you are right now. And these are some of the things that went through my mind. Now, I do have a counselor in the room that can help me if these are not the same questions y'all have. So, am I technical enough? Well, I ask myself that all the time because I'm working with guys like Matt Vid, right, and Austin Weber over there. I mean, computer science is like a freight train. If you don't keep up with it, it will run you over. So why can't I just take computer science courses? I asked myself that when I was here. Why do I have to take technical writing and fiction and chemistry and physics? I did enjoy those. But some of the other softy things, electives, I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want to go write some code. Am I supposed to be here? Or did my parents get me here? Will I be able to keep up? Will I succeed when I get out? You know, that senior year, we're like, oh man, there's a lot of stress. And even more so with COVID-19, right? We didn't go to school in a pandemic. This is completely unprecedented. What am I worth? What is going to be on that offer letter when I finally graduate, right? Those companies. And why do I have to be around other people? Do I have to really mess with people? Why are there so many people around? So these are the sort of things that went through my mind, and I hope I can answer some of those today with our 3 topics of navigating relationships, failure, and purpose. So first off, relationships, and this is a cool little program called XMind. It's just a mind mapper. I'm just over all the slides thing, so you're going to see things be a little jittery here. So relationships in computer science. We have a great relationship with technology, right? We love it. It's so good. But going forward, you're going to have to adopt a lifestyle of learning. This is a practice. It is not a one and done thing where you get your JD. It's just, well, it is kind of like an attorney where you're in a practice and you keep learning. So you've done the right thing. You've come to the best computer science program anywhere in the US, which is Southeastern. Now, as you move into your constant theory of learning, take up some internships. Branch out into the real world and see what those are going to be, and let them teach you in those internships, paid or unpaid. Start looking for conferences to start opening up. That's one of the places you'll gain a lot of hands-on and a lot of exposure to other technologies are the conferences. I loved going to those. Online courses. Now the YouTube is good, but YouTube is the wild, wild west. You can learn bad practices on YouTube. I like Pluralsight, Udemy, some of these other vetted classes that are much better. So always keep your relationship with technology healthy. Keep it healthy with Doc and Dr. Ashe as well, and Dr. Burris. Stay in touch with these instructors. I have, even over, how long has it been? A couple of years. 2 or 3. But also have a good relationship with employers. Consider your first offer, but think about it more than just a number that's on the page. Is it going to be conducive to a lifestyle of constant learning and improvement? So what you need to look for is to get hired into a culture of learning. It can happen in small businesses, it can happen in large businesses, but sometimes it doesn't happen. So make sure that you're entering that culture that's going to continue to build you up. So, and I like this statement, mentored liberty over strict productivity. Now, I am going to talk about a little bit about how we do things at Envoc, because that's the only company I know right now. But Austin has the liberty to come here and be mentored by Dr. Ashe or anybody here, or Matt Vid or Travis Overmeyer. there has to be an environment of you to go out and learn over strict productivity. Austin, get back to the office and pound out code. You know, that there are environments like that. They're no fun. I've worked for them. I didn't like it. So innovation actually happens in this marginal time, right? This is where what you create now would become what's next. Well, you can't create unless you have some downtime, unless you have some marginal time. There was a large health network in Baton Rouge that issued a letter that I got a hold of, and it said, everyone needs to stop walking around the lakes. You need to be at your desk working. Stop taking walks. We pay you to be here at the hospital or at the medical facility. We need you here working. And I was like, but when you go on a walk, that's, you know, when you get in the zone and you've been in the zone in the trenches for an hour or two at a time, you got to give your brain a break. Go on a walk. That's why you'll see us walking around all the time. Bring somebody with you. Let somebody bounce ideas off of you. Don't pack your schedule. Don't pack it so much that there's no margin in there for you to be creative. Because again, that's where it happens. Now, when you find and take your first offer, sometimes you're going to get into that. You may have to get into that sweatshop mentality where they're going to put you on 10 projects at a time. But keep in mind these two food groups. There's the Butterfinger and the pot of spaghetti. The Butterfinger is, has anybody ever shared a Butterfinger with somebody where you break it in half? You lose about 5 to 10% of the Butterfinger when you split it. Okay, so if you're changing projects all the time, or you're changing classes, you're going from physics to computer science to English to whatever, every time you do a context switch, you lose a little bit in between, right? So when you're on so many projects, think about the Butterfinger principle. You're gonna lose, you're not gonna get 100% of your productivity. You might get 70 or even 60, and then you start thrashing, and then you get 0, because then you change majors and do something else. But the other extreme is if you were to get a job where you're the rock star, you're the only programmer in there, right? And they say, we want you to write, we're a flower store. We want you to write us an online purchasing website. It's your first job out of college. The pitfall is everyone loves what you do. It's magical, right? But no one's mentoring you. No one's continuing that education and those best practices and teaching you about edge cases and about cybersecurity. And nobody's teaching you that. But year after year, you're making this big pot of spaghetti and you're not learning anything. And before you know it, it looks like that. And you didn't get any additional education. You just kept doing the same thing over and over. So be careful of that, of those pitfalls. And those are our relationships with computer science. Now, computer science, as I mentioned earlier, is a craft. So we deal with clients. We don't have customers. Customers add to cart and they check out and you never see them again and you just try and get a bunch of them. But we have clients. Clients are people that come under our care, okay? So they're a little bit different. And what I want you to recognize when you get out of here, and even right now, if you're consulting with somebody, they are your client, right? They are under your care. So be the practicing professional, and I'm gonna tell you why. You are the professional. And it's hard for them to recognize that you are the professional because we don't have that ability if we're not in computer science. For example, how do you, if you were going to go out, how would you recognize a good surgeon, a good trial lawyer, a good CPA, a good counselor, a good computer science teacher? You really can't because you're not the expert, right? I mean, how do you know a surgeon's going to do the right procedure on you, or a trial lawyer is going to file the right motion? Or the computer science teacher is going to teach you the right thing. Expertise is always assumed in our field. We are assumed to be the expert. So you need to have the confidence to be that expert in our field, okay? Because you've finished this class. You've been in touch with all of your peers. And so when it's done right, you're going to see things like this. You're going to see, if I can zoom in, this is an email that I got after a meeting. Now, I was trying to sell them on something. So rather than whenever you're talking with clients, what you'll find is that they will thank you for your time, even though they're paying you for your time, okay? And that's what I tell a lot of our team. If you're doing it right, someone's coming in to hire us to do something, And after the meeting, they thank us for our time. And then they write us a check for our time. It's amazing stuff. But that's how we do it. Expertise is assumed in a service business. Now, people don't so much care what we do, but they also care how we do it. And that's where the relationship business part of computer science comes into play. Because this is how we do it. Do we return emails and calls? This is what clients want to know before we start writing code, right? They assume we're the expert, but we are going to grammatically correct our communication with them. We're going to let them know we took the time to communicate with them properly. We're going to take time to give them weekly updates on the progress. Bad news is like milk. It spoils the older it gets. It's not like wine that gets better the older it gets. Don't be afraid to tell someone bad news. Hey, we're going to blow the budget on this. We're going to blow the timeline. We're not going to make it. Tell them early. Tell them early and often. Okay? Now, this is part of a relationship, moving them from the front door to the kitchen to the living room. What does that mean? The front door is where you greet people. Nice to meet you, Mr. Acquaintance, Mrs. Acquaintance, come on in. The kitchen, whenever y'all go home for holidays, where do y'all get the best conversation? In the kitchen, right? That's where everybody's cooking. That's where the hospitality is happening. But the intimacy is happening in the living room, right? So you want to get your clients to the living room. So I always say, if you're going to call on a company, and let's say that it's your first day and you're coming in to check out a new client, and they've called you up to do some work, and the receptionist says, can I get you some coffee? What are you going to say? My tendency as an introvert is, oh, no, thanks. I don't want to put you out, right? Take the coffee, even if you don't drink coffee. Say, I'd love a cup of coffee. And 9 times out of 10, or 99 times out of 10, as they say in Mississippi, they will invite you to the kitchen to go make coffee. What happens there? You start talking about, oh, I had a daughter that went to Southeastern. Really? You start building a relationship, and you also give them an opportunity to serve you. So don't deny them an opportunity to serve you. That builds relationship. That moves us from the front door, how you doing? Go sit over there, wait for the meeting, to, hey, we've already exchanged coffee. We've already served each other. We've gotten to know each other. So we're satisfying the person before we satisfy the requirements. So that's the whole point of this relationship business. We are in the relationship business. Satisfy the person before the requirements. Now, we also work with team members. So we have relationships with them. Dr. Curran, the late Dr. Curran that we used to have here in 411, used to say, steal from the best. But I'm going to change it to learn from the best and then give it away. Okay, there's a lot of great ideas, and you will feel so good when you give things away. So, and collaborate with your peers. Don't just work with a team, work on the team. Become a competency, a group of people. In our teams, Austin and his team, they changed the way that we do business all the time because they're a competency. They change. Hey, we're going to do builds like this. We're going to do deployments like this. We're going to change from, Octopus to DevOps. You know, we're doing that. Not me. I don't know how to do that anymore. You know, so the higher my authority goes, the lower my competency goes as a leader. Okay, so I have to find these competencies. So collaborate with your peers is another one, and I'm sure you guys are doing this, mentor the mentees. So as we transition to our failures, there's a Turkish proverb that I kind of live by and run the company with, and it is, no matter how far you've gone down the wrong road, turn back. Okay? No matter how far you go down the wrong road, turn back. A lot of times as software developers, we get emotionally attached to a technology or to our code. You have to be ready to just let it go. Don't have a chokehold on that relationship with your code. It's always going to get better if you're always learning. Okay? And another pitfall of this is the idea that perfect can destroy very good. I've seen many, many clients try to get their code or their product so perfect that it never gets released. right? And they'll gold plate it, or they'll just keep, it's not ready, it's not ready, it's not ready. But it's very good. And if I hold something back from you that's very good, you would never have any benefit, right? Very good is good. Does anybody know a perfect dry cleaner? Or a perfect CPA that finds every perfect deduction, right? You don't know. Very good is very good. So don't let perfect destroy what we do. Y'all having fun so far? Yes. Yeah? Y'all missed the code? No? Okay, good. I'm sure there's plenty of it. Because this is a good one, failure. This is one I'm great at. This is my favorite topic. So failure. In the past, I would understand failure a couple of ways. I'd say, well, 0 failures is not possible. And it's not so much as important that you make 0 mistakes, because you are going to make mistakes, but it's more important on how you respond to those mistakes. Okay, fair enough. That's a good operating, way to operate. In the real world, you're going to find a little bit of this. You're going to find where management has not been trained or has not embraced the value of failure. So in that regard, they will do, and I'm guilty of this too, they will put an unhealthy emphasis on postmortems, what went wrong, and then the finger wag. They're not technical, but they can just go like this and go, you did it wrong, don't do it again. I'm a manager, right? So this is an illicit way, not a good way to handle failures. So some of the observations is that failure is not always bad. And learning from failure is not always straightforward, because it requires an environment and attitudes to work with failures. And it's hard to avoid the blame game, right? It's easy for us to go, look, I did my code, my piece works. I did my presentation of 383. I don't know what he did. I like when someone says, well, what was your part of the project? And then the other team member's like, yeah, get him. So, anyway, if there's no blame, we have to take some blame sometimes. If there is no blame, then anything goes. And then it's the wild, wild west again. So there has to be some kind of happy medium in here. And those are some of my observations. I think the answer is that you have a culture that makes it safe to admit and report on failures when things go wrong, okay? Because when failures are reported, lessons are learned. Hopefully they're learned if you have a culture that embraces that and that values that, not just finger wagging. But when failures are unreported, the lessons are lost. They're gone. You're gonna go make the mistake again. Nothing like making the same mistake twice. Now, one example of this is NASA's ASRS. This is the Aviation Safety Reporting System. This is way cool. Okay, this is a form that you fill out if you're a pilot, if you're a mechanic, if you're an air traffic controller, and let's say that you have a bad day and you're thinking about something that's just occupying you, right? And you almost have 2 planes crash into each other. Or you forget to put the landing gear down. Or you didn't see the plane that's on the radar, or you didn't make the right radio call, or you broke an airspace you weren't supposed to. You could normally lose your license or get reprimanded or get written up. Not with this. If you file it early enough before they find out, you're completely get out of jail free card. You are not liable for that incident. Unless it's criminal, of course. You can't kill somebody and put them on the form. But it's extremely, it creates an entirely different environment for reporting on failure. So much so that it yields the highest standard of aviation safety, that we've ever seen. It just keeps getting better and better and better, which is why I feel safer flying in a commercial plane than driving home from school. Now, there was this Marine that really embraced failure. And I love this idea of the failure, of this spectrum of failure. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you the difference between blameworthy failure and praiseworthy failure. Okay, and this is on a spectrum. So let me make this a little bit smaller. Okay, so here's the spectrum of failure. Now these are the blameworthy items, and then these are the praiseworthy items that we'll get into. So think about some of these during your coursework, or working in teams, or working at a job that you've done. Deviance. The individual chooses to violate a prescribed process or practice. I'm not going to work today. I'm not checking in. I'm not putting my timesheet in or whatever. I'm just not doing it. I mean, it's just, that's why they call you a deviant, right? Inattention. I just don't really care to look at the spec that well. I'm just going to go do what I want. You know, these are some blameworthy failures, right? Lack of ability. An individual doesn't have the skills, conditions, or training to do a job. Well, did I take on that job that I don't have the skills to do? Or did someone put me in a job that I can't do? Right? So now we're getting a little bit fuzzy here. Process inadequacy. A competent person adheres to a faulty or an incomplete process. Hey, we didn't have a process for that, so I just guessed. You know, I was doing my best, right? Task challenge. The person faces a task too difficult to be done reliably every time. I need you to make that bank transfer. I don't know how to do online banking, right? Process complexity. A multi-part process breaks down when it encounters edge cases. Edge cases are a beast, right? Writing code, the happy path is always easy, but it's where the edge cases where you really got to have some hard-hitting mentorship on those things. And again, raise your hand. You know, if you're given a task that's too difficult, you know, bad news is not like wine, right? It's going to get worse. So if you got some bad news in there, go get it over with. Trust me. So the next one, now we're getting into the praiseworthy type of failure. This is where we should all live, okay? Uncertainty, a lack of clarity about future events, COVID, causes people to take seemingly reasonable actions that produce undesired results. You can't know the future, right? We can only plan so much, but we're gonna try. Hypothesis testing, an experiment conducted to prove that an idea or a design will succeed or fail. If you have the liberty, if you have time, and you're not working in the business, you can work on it, right? You can work on your foundation. If you have time to test hypotheses, it is praiseworthy failure when it fails. The whole idea of trial and error implies that there was something right? But the error is kind of a misnomer because you don't know. There is no right. That's why you're doing the trial, right? Error was just, that didn't work. Well, you're that much farther down the road than you were yesterday. So keep trying things and don't be afraid to fail on them. And here's the last one, exploratory testing, an experiment conducted to expand knowledge and investigate a possibility leads to an undesired result. I'll take that all day long. Take 2 hours, spend $200 on a library that you think can short circuit your programming or cut down on the time or make it more efficient. Who wants to write a calendar control, right? Or a time control that respects time zones and daylight savings time? I don't want to do that, right? Nobody's going to ask us to do those things. So just go buy one, go find the best one. If it breaks in the middle, you throw it away and you get another one, right? This is exploratory testing. This is what we did a lot on LA Wallet. We're innovating through things. We're trying things. Sometimes they don't work. The first day with LA Wallet, we were in a room almost this big with state police, and we said, and here's how you, Mr. State Police, can check their device. If you just press this, and they go, are you kidding? I'm never going to touch their phone. The minute I touch somebody's phone, I'm going, oh man, we just wrote this function in here. The minute I touch someone's phone, they're going to accuse me of breaking their screen, rifling through it. I'm going to go to court. They're going to accuse me of using it as a weapon against them. And we were going, whoa, okay. So you can either say, ouch, that hurt, or you can say, glad that's over, right? But that's where we have to live. We have to live in this exploratory testing. So in summary, praiseworthy failures here are good. They're good. They provide valuable new knowledge that can help us leap ahead. Innovation on the frontier I mean, imagine just this chuck wagon going, that's where we are in computers. It produces good failures quickly, right? They're praiseworthy failures. In software development, this is where we should live. Do you have any questions on that? You have one?
I'll agree.
Okay, I got some more. Let's keep going to the good one, which is purpose. So we talked about what we do. We do technology, right? We talked about how we do it. We learn constantly from our success and failure. We are the personal professionals. We satisfy the person before the requirements. But very seldom do we get into why we do it. Okay, now this is kind of modeled after Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, which is a required reading for anybody here. Start with why. So why we do it. You have to know that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Let me give you two examples, Apple and Tesla. Okay, Apple has the same access to software programmers, to marketing companies, to HR personnel, to technology that everybody else does, that Microsoft does. But nobody lines up outside the Microsoft store when they release a new product. They don't. It's because Bill Gates it's the people that follow Apple believe what Steve Jobs, what he believes, right? And Apple starts with their why. We believe in making everything beautiful and different. We challenge the status quo. By the way, we happen to make computers and watches and phones. It doesn't matter what they make. We're going to line up outside and buy it, right? Tesla's the same way. I mean, when we see Elon Musk, we're like, wow, this guy's like an alien, right? But the same kind of thing. It's all about we buy into their why, not just their product. So this is always a fun one that I do in orientation. Where does love fit in computer science? What? Is everybody getting uncomfortable now? Good, because here's the definition. The definition, you won't find this in any of the sociology courses. The definition of love is a commitment of the will to the true good of another. Okay? So let's break that down. I am committing every future decision and evaluation that I'm going to be doing to what's best for somebody else. Even if they don't know it, even if they don't return it, even if they don't want it. Okay? So who does that apply to? See, there's no liver quiver, little feelings in here. It's all just, it's all there. So it applies to your plus one, wife, girlfriend, spouse, partner. It applies to your parents. I have a 91-year-old mother. I am the sole support team for her iPad and her iMac and her iPhone. Would anybody like to help me with that? My patience is about that long. But I still love my mom. I want what's best for her. If I really did that, I'd take the phones away. But it also works with your family, right? It works with your kids if you have kids. It works with your team. What's the best thing for my team? How do I commit all of my decisions to what is best for my team, for the true good of our team, and the true good of our clients, right? This fits with us being the personal professional in our practice. And I don't think anybody can deny that the teachers here love their students. Would y'all agree? They are always acting in what is the best interest, the true good of your career and you. So that's really juicy stuff. So how we translate love into a business practice is we have a subline, a subtag called a better reality. Now, what does that look like? A better reality, okay, I'm going to warn y'all, there are 2 obscene words in here that I did not write. So if you're live streaming to a daycare, this is a good time to pause your screen. Or if you have kids in the room. So this is a Kraft example, Ryan Kraft. You guys know Ryan Kraft, he graduated from here, right? So this is a text from the project manager of LA Wallet from the Department of Public Safety. She sent me this text And I didn't ask for any of these emails or correspondence. I did not ask for them. So starting Wednesday at 1:15, she says, Ryan Kraft needs a big ass raise. I seriously love him. He's so amazing. No matter what I ask, he's on it and corrects it so fast. Like, thanks for telling me this. I'll slip him a little bonus. He truly rocks, Calvin. You got yourself a winner right there. Okay, this, I mean, it makes me want to cry, right? But this is what giving a client a better reality looks like. Now, Ryan could have fixed her printer. He may not have even written any code, but he was the hands-on professional who she came under his care. And this is the impact that can happen. So Lodestar is one of our newer clients. We've had them for about 16 or 17 months. And they are very unique because they offload these barges of these hazardous materials, and they can only work 12 hours at a time, and then they have to relieve somebody, and everything is within hours. It's very hard. They're called tankermen. So we did a project with them, and let's see, Amanda and Lyle worked on this one. And I'm going to show you what he said, because this goes back to what I was talking about a little bit. I can't stand these little zoom in things. Sorry about that. It's going to be really good. Hang in there. This is why I should have done a PowerPoint. He says, his subject line is Midnight 30 Epiphany. Okay, and Andrew writes, when all of you all of a sudden realize that over the course of the last 14 months, while tirelessly brainstorming every possible operational scenario, edge case, and working closely with your software developer, you never considered, what about a night when the time changes? Then your little heart is put to ease when you notice that the software that we wrote, Aegis, won't even let you select 0-200 hours as a tankerman relief time. Jump straight to 3 hours immediately, automatically. Envoc, saving logistics managers from heart attacks, one job order at a time. I mean, isn't that cool to get something from a client like that? He basically wrote us a poem, right? And went out and found a Cheers glass. Andrew Gyro, he's great. We're gonna have him come over. And then he did it again. Aegis, that's the name of the software. To Amanda and Lyle, public service announcement, Aegis is still kicking ass. It's awesome. That is all. Carry on. That's it, right? These are the kinds of examples that we get when we are other-centered, when we focus on the client, when we put them under our care. It's an amazing, amazing feeling. So did y'all think software could do that? I didn't think so either. So that is the why we do it. And I think I have a summary down here. Or maybe not. Did y'all get a fridge yet? Okay, I'm getting to it. Here's our summary. So in summary, we as professionals have to adopt a lifestyle of learning, constant learning, even in your first job. Keep it going. We satisfy the person before the requirements. We're in the relationship business. Our clients come under our care. Third, we collect praiseworthy failure. And lastly, we define and stick to an other-centered why. That's all I have. Thank y'all. Do you guys have any questions? I'd like to open it up for questions if you have any.
Do you need any summer interns?
Do we need any summer interns was the question from the floor. Yes. Yes, we do. I can't make this a sales job, you know. This is all educational, hopefully. But this is one of the coolest jobs ever. I mean, I really meant that. I do not have an exit strategy. I love what I do. If I were to, people ask, what are you going to do when you retire? Probably this. You know, this is what I'd want to do. Yeah.
So there's a question in the chat, could you share a failure example?
Share a fail.
Share a failure example is the question.
Yes. Oh, I'll give you a good one. Okay, remember that spaghetti illustration? Okay, I was the guy on the left doing everything great, and I used this really cool tool from Redgate software called Data Compare, and it would compare one database schema with another schema. Well, then they came out with the ability to match the records. It would like find all the missing records and synchronize both tables. So I had been writing his production database. He had about 200,000 email addresses of all of his people that were on these email addresses that he had collected for this marketing company. And so one day I was adding a new field to the database, and I synchronized the empty database to his production database. And I didn't have a backup. And so I learned about backups that day. That was a fail, a big fail. That was a blameworthy failure. But I've never done it again. And what I've done, and Robert Schroeder has done this, haven't you, Robert, if you're on here? And we all call it the heat wave. And you will experience it when you get into the working world, where you do something so bad that this wave of heat comes over you like, I've just done something really, really bad. But that is a very learning experience when that wave comes over you and you're going, I don't have a backup. It's a really harrowing feeling, isn't it? That's a great question. Any other questions? Oh, let me look in the chat. I have it now. Oh, Robert said I had a backup at least. Thanks, Robert. Oh, and Jeremy Beckham's here. He knows that story too. Yeah. Yes.
So you talked about how failures, it's not always really straightforward to learn from them. But is there any tips you can give us for learning from failures, even when it's not obvious how you can?
Are there any tips for learning from failures when it's not obvious?
Yeah.
Well, on the personal side, you have to know no one's really keeping score. You know, a lot of times I would beat myself up because I wasn't as successful, or I wasn't down the maturity road as my brothers were. You know, I would always do this horizontal comparison with other people. Nobody's keeping score. They're not. That's one thing that would really torment me, you know, in the past about my own failures. And instead of looking at the positive value of the failures and learning from them and gathering that lesson, it was always lost on shame, on feeling bad for having done something that failed, that didn't succeed. Because I was focusing on trying to be perfect every time. You know, I wouldn't check my code in because somebody might see it. You know, check it in. Let a mentor see it. You know. Yes.
This is more of a management question. How do you do? I mean, you mentioned this a little bit. How do you deal with like if someone makes a mistake? Like, how do you deal with your other like coworkers kind of ganging up on that person and bullying them? From like more of a management position, how do you kind of be like? I mean, because you want to keep that culture of like learning from failure, but also, you know, your whole team start getting number one developer.
That's right. How do you not, the question is, how do you not allow one person to get ganged up on by the team when that one person fails? Well, the team, there are no minority reports, okay? So if you're in a team, you're not supposed to be able to say, well, that wasn't my idea. I wanted to do this. Well, no, you agreed as a team what done is. You all decided on what the definition of done was, right? We all agreed that this is how we were going to do it, what language we're going to use it, what standards we're going to use, what database we're going to use. We as a team, right, decided on these things. So you as a team have to address them, and you actually have to take some of the poison there. You know, you got to spread it around. You can't just vilify one person. Right? That's a tough one. But try not to focus on a minority report. But if you're a member of a team, you can't build that division either. Because if you're getting to that point where the team's against you, you might want to take a look inside too, right? So try not to be a Minority Report. That was a weird movie, Minority Report. But that's what it is, one person dissenting from the team. We don't have that in, in our, I mean, you do have it in the Supreme Court and things. You have a dissenting opinion, but you shouldn't have that in teams. You should, as a competency, come together, decide, and abide by that. Good questions. Succeed together and fail together, says Jeremy.
How did you know you wanted to go down this one path? There's a lot of things you do with computer science, and a lot of you do like programs coming out of the Southeastern class, types. How did you know you wanted to do one specific thing?
How did I know what I wanted to do, the specific thing right now? There's so many branches of computer science, right? That's the question. I think just whenever I got that first Atari 800, and it had coding in there in the books, and you could make a little line do like this. When I found that I had control over nothing else in my life except the computer, it would do what I told it. Not what I wanted it, but it'll do what I tell it, and it was consistent. It was like this whole new world opens up to, I can manipulate this thing. And then when I found out that other people could benefit from it, that's when I was like, this is really more satisfying than me, just writing code. I tell the story about Deanna, and Deanna was a nursing student. She had a husband and a wife, not a husband and a wife. She had a husband and a daughter, and she worked at this Houston, it's a management company for apartments. And one day she gave me a call, her boss did, and said, hey, come fix this process, And Deanna said, I said, what's wrong with the process? She goes, well, it fails half the time. It takes 8 hours to run. Unless it fails, then it takes 13 hours to run. And I'm like, okay, well, let me take a look at it. And I was a very self-centered person at that time, right? I was going to be the hero, So I took the code home, had stored procedures, SQL Server, back in the day, Visual Basic, and found, where this spaghetti code was, because some one guy or person wrote this bucket of spaghetti. Right? So I was able to fix the spaghetti code, brought it in there, kind of got your new code for you, slapped it on there. And it run, well, first she tried to run it and it said, hey, you got to fix these prerequisites. She's like, it asks me to fix the things that'll crash it. I'm like, well, yeah, you can't run the process unless these prerequisites are done. And so she runs it and it runs in 7 minutes, right? And I'm like the hero, right? She's crying. And I'm like, why are you crying? And she said those words, you don't understand. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, I have to run this on a Friday. I'm studying all the time. I cannot plan a Saturday with my husband and daughter because it might crash and I have to come in. I can plan my weekends now. And I was like, okay, this isn't about me. Software can do that. That's what I like about it. Y'all have been a great audience, so I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Ashe.
All right, so did we learn some things? A lot of things, maybe some things we didn't even expect to learn. Thank you, Calvin, again, for this amazing lab, for uniting our students, because I really do feel like this is a place of unity for our students that will allow them to innovate. It will give them what they need to be able to innovate. And that, of course, is relationship, because we all have intellect in this room and online. All of our students are very intelligent. It's building these relationships that's really going to allow us to innovate and do these exciting and amazing things. And so we thank you for that. To all of our audience, this again is our final Distinguished Lecturer series for the school year. As our semester winds down, I just encourage you guys to buckle in and finish strong, as we all like to say. But to look for us again in the fall semester. We'll come back next year with a whole new series. of some great lectures. So thank you for coming, and again, finish strong. We will see you next fall. Thank you.